The CIA drugged citizens, erased minds, and tortured people, all in secret, and then got away with all of it. No trials, no prison sentences, not a single person held accountable, because the perpetrators weren't criminals in the shadows. They were the government itself. Most believe it ended in the 70s, but what if the program never really stopped?
We are not professing to tell you the complete story of these activities. We are professing to tell you the complete story that we know.
This is the story of Project MKUltra, not just what happened behind closed doors, but how it was finally exposed, the stunning lack of accountability, and why, even today, many believe its dark ambitions never really ended. If you've never heard of MKUltra, brace yourself. And if you think it ended decades ago, you may want to think again. Project MKUltra was a top-secret and illegal human experimentation program run by the CIA from 1953 until 1973. But to understand why it started, we need to go back to the height of the Cold War. The early 1950s were gripped by intense paranoia. Reports of American prisoners of war in Korea, seemingly brainwashed by communist forces, sent shockwaves through the U.S. intelligence community. The fear was that the Soviets and Chinese had developed advanced mind control techniques, capable of turning loyal citizens into unwitting spies or assassins. On April 10, 1953, the new CIA director, Allen Dulles, stood at a podium and condemned this sinister brain warfare. He called the Soviet techniques abhorrent, but behind the public outrage, a plan was already in motion. A plan far darker than anything the Soviets were accused of. America wasn't just going to defend against this weapon, it was going to build a better one. 3 days later, on April 13, 1953, Allen Dulles gave the secret order. Project MKUltra was born. It was so secret, so compartmentalized, that most of the government had no idea it existed. The official goal was defense. The real goal was offense. The CIA wanted an arsenal for the mind, a truth serum that couldn't be beaten, drugs that could make a person forget they were ever a spy, and the ultimate prize, creating a programmable human assassin. To lead this journey into the abyss, Dulles needed a very specific kind of monster. He found him in Sidney Gottlieb. Gottlieb was a brilliant chemist, a folk-dancing, cabin-dwelling man who saw himself as spiritual. He would become the CIA's poisoner-in-chief, the architect of some of the most sadistic human experiments in American history. Dulles gave him everything, a blank check, no oversight. The name MKUltra was a sterile bureaucratic code, but the program it hid would operate outside the law, beyond morality, and would come to destroy countless lives. It built on the bones of older, darker projects, recruiting former Nazi scientists and refining earlier torture methods. But MKUltra was different. It was about to escalate from a project of national security into a monstrous assault on the very citizens it was meant to protect. At the black heart of Project MKUltra was a single profound violation. There was no consent. Sidney Gottlieb and the CIA didn't ask for volunteers. They chose their victims specifically from those who could not fight back: mental patients, prisoners, drug addicts, prostitutes. In the chilling words related to one officer's view, they were people who could not fight back. Their stories, if they ever surfaced, would be easily dismissed. It was a flagrant violation of the Nuremberg Code, the very laws America had helped write to prosecute the Nazis after World War II. The weapon of choice was a new, reality-shattering drug, LSD. Gottlieb saw it as a skeleton key for the mind. He believed it could shatter a person's identity, leaving their psyche in ruins, ready to be rebuilt by the CIA. The experiments were random, cruel, and without clear scientific merit. In Kentucky, they fed LSD to African-American inmates addicted to heroin every single day for 77 consecutive days. Imagine it, a months-long chemical nightmare from which there was no escape. In prisons, they preyed on inmates they deemed expendable. One of them was a young mobster named James Whitey Bulger. He would never forget the experience. 8 convicts in a panic and paranoid state, he later wrote. He described horrible periods of living nightmares and even blood coming out of the walls, guys turning to skeletons in front of me. I saw a camera change into the head of a dog. I felt like I was going insane. They didn't stop there. They dosed their own agents, soldiers, and employees, slipping LSD into their morning coffee, their evening cocktails, without their knowledge or consent. This wasn't science. It was psychological warfare waged on their own people. The human cost was never calculated. It was ignored. Of all the sub-projects, None was as sordid as Operation Midnight Climax. This was Gottlieb's plan to study drugs and sex in the real world. The CIA set up secret apartments in New York and San Francisco. They were decorated to look like brothels, complete with hidden microphones and one-way mirrors. The agency then hired prostitutes on their payroll to lure unsuspecting men back to these apartments. Once inside, the men were given a drink, secretly spiked with a heavy dose of LSD. Then, the show began. Behind the mirror, CIA agents, led by a man named George Hunter White, would sit with a cooler of drinks and watch. They watched as their victims' worlds unraveled, as men spiraled into terror and confusion. The official goal was to see if sex and drugs could be used to extract secrets, but it quickly devolved into a voyeuristic, government-funded peep show, fueled by power and absolute secrecy. The agent in charge, George White, reveled in it. "I toiled wholeheartedly in the vineyards," he wrote in a letter to Gottlieb, "because it was fun, fun, fun. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, cheat, steal, rape, and pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest?" That single confession reveals the moral black hole at the center of the operation. We will never know the true psychological damage done to the men who stumbled out of those rooms, their minds scarred by a horror they could never explain. The darkness runs deep. If you believe these hidden histories must be dragged into the light, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Your support allows us to keep digging. LSD was just one tool in a vast catalog of horrors. Project MKUltra was a sprawling network of pain, with over 80 institutions involved, including universities, hospitals, and prisons across the US and Canada. Inside these trusted institutions, Gottlieb's researchers explored every known method for breaking a human being. They used high-voltage electroshock therapy at brutal, unsafe levels. They used hypnosis to attempt mind control and create amnesia. They submerged people in sensory deprivation tanks for days on end, locked in silence and total darkness. This was combined with long-term isolation, verbal, sexual, and physical abuse, and other forms of psychological warfare. This wasn't science, it was torture, plain and simple. One of the most terrifying goals was called depatterning. The theory, championed by a CIA-funded Canadian psychiatrist, Dr. Donald Ewan Cameron, was that you could literally erase a person's mind and build a new one from scratch. The process was monstrous. Patients were put into drug-induced comas for weeks or months. While they were unconscious, a looped audio message was played under their pillow, sometimes for up to 16 hours a day, drilling new thoughts into their obliterated mind.
That was beside my bed constantly, repeated between 250,000 and 500,000 times.
The results were catastrophic. One survivor, whose family later recalled her story, suffered permanent amnesia. She forgot her own children and identity, becoming childlike and never recovering her previous identity. Another patient, Charles Tanney, went in for a minor nerve ailment and came out a stranger. His daughter, Julie Tanney, recalled how, "He didn't know me or my two siblings. He never came back to the person he was before."
Clips from the interview with the shrink and put it on tape to run a loop under his pillow while he was put into this sleep treatment.
For years, the victims were nameless, but one death put a face to the horror and threatened to expose the entire program: the death of Dr. Frank Olson. Olson wasn't a prisoner or a patient, he was one of them, a 43-year-old Army biochemist working on biological warfare at Fort Detrick, directly with Sidney Gottlieb. He knew where all the bodies were buried. In November 1953, Olson attended a secret meeting at a remote cabin. After dinner, Gottlieb covertly spiked a bottle of Cointreau with LSD and passed it around. He didn't tell anyone what was in it. Olson drank it. In the days that followed, he unraveled. He became paranoid, terrified, claiming he had made a terrible mistake. He was a security risk. His CIA colleagues, worried about what he might say, escorted him to New York City. In the early morning of November 28th, 9 days after being drugged, Frank Olson plunged from his 13th-story hotel window to his death. The official story: suicide. For 22 years, his family was forced to live with that lie, but they never believed it. Then, in 1975, a government report revealed an unnamed scientist had died after a secret LSD dosing. The Olson family knew. The government was forced to admit its role, and President Gerald Ford issued a public apology, granting the family a $750,000 settlement. But his son, Eric, was convinced it was murder. In 1994, he had his father's body exhumed. A forensic team found injuries on the body that happened before the fall. The conclusion was chilling. Frank Olson didn't jump. He was struck on the head and thrown out the window. He wasn't a tragic casualty of a bad trip. He was a threat that had been permanently silenced. For over 2 decades, MKUltra operated in the shadows, its existence a closely guarded secret. It took a confluence of factors for the truth to finally begin to emerge. The political landscape of the mid-1970s, reeling from the Watergate scandal and a growing public distrust of government, created an unprecedented demand for transparency. The critical breakthrough came in December 1974, when investigative journalist Seymour Hersh published a bombshell article in the New York Times, detailing illegal domestic spying operations by the CIA, including drug experimentation. This expose ignited public outrage and legislative action. In 1975, the U.S. Senate established the Church Committee, led by Senator Frank Church, to investigate alleged abuses by the CIA and other intelligence agencies. Concurrently, the Rockefeller Commission was formed by President Ford to investigate the CIA's domestic activities. These investigations, driven by a renewed demand for government accountability, gradually unveiled the horrifying details of MKUltra. Despite the determined efforts of investigators, the full scope of MKUltra proved elusive. Just before the program was exposed, then CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the deliberate destruction of nearly all MKUltra documents in 1973. This act of concealment meant the Church Committee was only able to recover a fraction of the files, around 20,000 pages out of what was certainly hundreds of thousands. This intentional act made a complete accounting of the program's victims and methods virtually impossible. And what happened to the perpetrators of these unspeakable acts? This is one of the most unsettling aspects of the MKUltra legacy, a profound lack of accountability. Despite the overwhelming evidence of illegal human experimentation, abuse, and even deaths, remarkably, few, if any, individuals faced significant legal consequences or criminal prosecution. Sidney Gottlieb, the poisoner-in-chief, retired from the CIA in 1973 and largely faded from public view, never facing trial for his role in the atrocities. Dr. Ewan Cameron continued his practice for some time after the exposure, though his reputation was severely tarnished. While some victims later received limited compensation through lawsuits, the architects and enablers of MKUltra largely escaped justice. This failure to hold individuals accountable remains a stark reminder of unchecked power and a profound systemic flaw. Officially, Project MKUltra was terminated in 1973. This official stance is the government's definitive answer. However, the systematic destruction of evidence means we can only truly confirm the program's official end, not the cessation of its underlying objectives or methodologies. As the Church Committee's final report famously stated, the scope and scale of these activities will likely never be fully known. This systemic destruction of evidence is precisely why lingering questions persist about the true end of such research and the full extent of abuses committed. Now, this is where we move into more speculative territory, but it's speculation grounded in credible research and ongoing concerns. While the name MKUltra might be history, the underlying ambitions of behavioral control and information manipulation have certainly not vanished. Instead, they appear to have evolved, leveraging new technologies and operating with a greater degree of sophistication. And while there's no public proof of MKUltra continuing in name, the ethical gap between tech advancement and oversight has only widened. Consider the rapid advancements in neurotechnology. Programs like the U.S. Brain Initiative, funded by agencies like DARPA, are exploring brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, and innovative ways to map, understand, and even modulate neural activity.
Brain Initiative combine the science and engineering together to develop the tool which can impact the neuroscience community.
While these efforts hold incredible promise for treating neurological disorders, they also raise profound ethical questions about their dual-use potential. As neuroscientist Raphael Yuste, a key architect of the Brain Initiative, put it, "Let's act before it's too late." Yuste has voiced significant concerns that neurotechnology could be used to play your brain like an instrument, emphasizing the urgent need for neurorights legislation to protect individual minds and mental privacy. The very capability to decode and potentially influence neural processes raises the chilling specter of modern mind control. Today's mind control isn't chemical. It's digital, algorithmic feeds, behavior prediction, neurosurveillance. Some fear we're not just the product, we're the experiment. Beyond direct brain manipulation, the intelligence community's interest in behavioral targeting at scale is undeniable. Edward Snowden's revelations exposed the NSA's mass data collection programs, demonstrating an unprecedented capacity for surveillance and behavioral profiling on an unimaginable scale. This, while not MKUltra's crude drug experiments, represents a new frontier in understanding and potentially influencing populations through targeted information dissemination and psychological operations. This leads to concerns among some about being targeted individuals through covert means. Then there's the persistent mystery of Havana syndrome, mysterious brain injuries suffered by U.S. diplomats and intelligence officers around the world. While the exact cause remains debated, theories range from directed energy attacks using microwave or sonic weapons to targeted psychological operations. These incidents highlight that the pursuit of non-conventional methods to incapacitate or influence individuals continues to be an active area of concern. As neuroscientist Dr. James Giordano of Georgetown University stated in a 2018 Department of Defense lecture, neurotechnology can be weaponized for psychological influence. These events serve as a stark reminder that the realm of covert influence is constantly evolving. The true lesson of MKUltra isn't just about the specific drugs or experiments. It's about the inherent dangers when immense government power operates in absolute secrecy, especially when combined with cutting-edge scientific research. Without robust public oversight, without stringent ethical boundaries, even the most benevolent scientific pursuits can be twisted into instruments of profound harm and human rights violations. The techniques pioneered in MKUltra, such as sensory deprivation and psychological manipulation, even found their way into later interrogation practices, including those used in black sites. This shows a disturbing lineage of methods, even if the names of the programs change. As Stephen Kinzer, author of Poisoner in Chief, observed in The Atlantic in 2019, MKUltra was a warning. When secrecy meets science and no one's watching, horrors follow. It's a chilling reminder that the capacity for such programs exists not just in the past, but potentially in our present and future. The mindset that allowed MKUltra to flourish, one of unchecked power and utilitarian ethics, remains a dangerous undercurrent. What would you do if your own government saw your mind not as sacred, but as a battlefield? Project MKUltra may officially be history, but the mindset behind it, the desire to control and manipulate, to push the boundaries of science without accountability, that mindset never left. It's up to us, as informed citizens, to remain vigilant, to question what's being done in our name, behind closed doors, and to demand transparency and ethical frameworks for emerging technologies. Because ultimately, the price for unchecked progress can be the very fabric of human freedom. If this video opened your eyes, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to see it, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If this topic matters to you, share it. The more people know the truth, the harder it becomes for history to repeat itself. And for more deep dives into real conspiracies, political history, and the hidden levers of power, make sure you subscribe. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning everything.